Hey folks, it's Thursday, August 27th. The time is 5:54 p.m. and the temperature is 27 degrees Celsius. I'm here in Long Branch, which is located on the southwest end of the city of Toronto. And that was the Long Branch GO station I was just in front of, and this is the Long Branch streetcar loop. From here you can catch the 501 streetcar, which will take you across the city and into downtown, and it'll finish up at Neville Park and the beaches. The plan for this walk is to head east along Lakeshore Boulevard, through the Long Branch area, and I'll finish up at Kipling Avenue where Long Branch ends, which is also where Humber College is located. Just to the west of here is the city of Mississauga. And this looks to be one of the buses heading out that way. As Long Branch is bordered by the city of Mississauga to the west, it's separated by the Etobicoke Creek. And just west of here is Marie Curtis Park. That's a well-known park in this area that even features a small beach that fronts Lake Ontario. And just to the west in Mississauga was the Long Branch Aerodrome, which was the first airport in Canada. That was built in 1915. And there were also arms factories that produced rifles for troops in World War II. Just west of here in Mississauga. There's a look at the streetcar loop with the GO train behind it. These rail tracks run a bit to the north and then east, and they form the northern border of Long Branch. To the east, it's bordered by Kipling Avenue, and to the south by Lake Ontario. That streetcar is making its way to Neville Park, and that's actually the same streetcar I was on that I took down here, and it took an awfully long time. It would probably have been quicker if I just took the subway to Kipling and then the bus down. This is a mostly low-rise area. And this part here on Lakeshore Boulevard West is the main commercial strip we'll be walking through. And I was trying to recall the last time I've ever been down here, and it was probably well over 20 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see what has changed. There's the Burrito Boys. That certainly wasn't here way back when. I've ridden my bike past here numerous times, but that's always been to the south along the waterfront trail. This here is 40th Street. Most of the streets on Lakeshore are numbered. They start in an area called New Toronto, which is just to the east of here at 1st Street. And that carries all the way down to the end of the city of Toronto. I think it ends at either 43rd or 44th Street, right along where the Etobicoke Creek is. The population of this area is somewhere around 10,000. And Long Branch itself was incorporated as a village back in 1931. It was later annexed into the city of Etobicoke in 1967, which then became part of the megacity of Toronto when it was amalgamated back in 1980 or 98. And here's a very familiar building. It's good to see this is still here. That's the Royal Order of Moose Lodge. It's mostly a music venue. And I think they operate on a membership basis, but if you're not a member, you can pay a fee. Looks like there's darts, cribbage, pool, and shuffleboard leagues going on. And like a lot of areas in Toronto that are along the railway tracks, this used to be more of an industrial area. So a lot of what you see on the north side of Lakeshore are former factory and warehouse lands that have since been redeveloped. And speaking of redeveloped, let's see if you can spot anything a bit unique about this Tim Hortons here. You might notice that Tim Hortons sign, the big cup there, is a bit unusual in terms of its dimensions for a cup of coffee, and that's because this used to be a Kentucky Fried Chicken and that was a KFC bucket. So they've cleverly painted it over. That's kind of neat. This building with the Rexall here on the right is new. When I was growing up, my parents had a couple of businesses in this area, so I spent a fair bit of time here as a kid. And we'll be walking by where they used to be shortly. And this is 37th Avenue. There's a Catholic school across the street. So the outdoor sidewalk patio phenomenon has found its way over here as well. It's quite common to see that throughout Toronto these days during this virus pandemic. Roughly about half of the people that live in this neighborhood are renting, and about 34% of the residents are immigrants to Canada. It's not quite as diverse as you would find the rest of Toronto being, at least from what I briefly read on the way over here. You can see how the northern side of the street is definitely more industrialized. And quite famously, just to the east of here used to be the Goodyear tire factory, or a Goodyear tire factory. I remember the day they tore that down. The next day there was a picture of the smokestack being demolished on the front page of the newspapers here. That was a pretty big deal. And they since built a housing development in its place, and I'm sure at some point I'll come back and do a walk through the new Toronto and Mimico areas, as they're quite interesting. And this is 35th Avenue. And that's a development I've never seen before. Again, there's not much in the way of high-rises around here. That's probably one of the taller residential buildings. And the bike trail itself, just to the south of here, isn't continuous along the lake, as most of that land is privately owned. There are arrows which show the way, but you do have to take a series of detours as you make your way across Long Branch. And then it'll pick up in Mississauga at Marie Curtis Park. There's definitely a lot of new housing developments out that way. And I think it's okay to cross the street. This streetcar track that runs down Lakeshore began life as a horse car track. and it later became electrified. It was originally a single rail track. It was eventually taken over by the TTC, and at some point became a two-rail track. There's a big development going in on the north side. There's a look down. That would be 33rd Street, so that would be the odd numbered streets on the right and the even numbered streets on the left. I will say it's certainly not the prettiest part of town. It could probably stand to have a few more trees along Lakeshore. Sorry.
Sorry, sir. Have a beautiful day.
You too.
Maybe next time.
And I remember this used to be an elementary school. And just across the street is the Long Branch Public Library.
Yeah. No, he's fine.
Certainly, it's a quieter area than what I usually cover, but I have been looking to get out and explore more parts of the city like this. And this would be 30th Street on the left. And now we're starting to see more retail on the north side of the street.
Yeah.
And really, if I were to live here, my only complaint would be the transit access. I don't know what the solution is, but if you're heading into downtown, this is a very long streetcar ride, and it's always been like that. And the TTC has had issues with sporadic service because it is the longest streetcar line in the city. And the residents in this area often don't have the best service as streetcars short turn before they get here, and they tend to bunch up. So they've tried numerous different ways of routing them or scheduling them to try to improve that. I don't know what the current procedures they have in place are, but Really, the only long-term solution to getting downtown quickly would be to have a dedicated streetcar lane. And the streetcar, somewhere around the end of North Toronto and the beginning of Mimico, will turn north from Lakeshore up to the Queensway, where it'll head east into the Parkdale neighborhood and then through downtown. And that's where it really starts to crawl along. I should make that the thumbnail of this video. We need more signs like this around the city of Toronto. If you watch this channel, you know. And right ahead, there's a guy cycling on the sidewalk. I was just about to say, you know, I'm not a fan of those over 14 riding their bikes on the sidewalk. And just up here on the left is a Ukrainian Orthodox church. I think it's called St. Demetrius. That was always sort of a landmark to mark entering Long Branch. And I can't remember if it was on this block. I think it was on the end of the next block up here, where there was a pool hall with a rather large arcade I spent a fair bit of time at as a kid. Probably should have looked out the windows on the streetcar on the way over here instead of reading a book. Would have had a better idea of what was coming up. And this leather shop has been here for as long as I can remember. And right here used to be a place called Greco Pizzeria and Subs. And that was a business that my parents briefly ran back in the 90s. Super Burger certainly wasn't there. And that used to be a variety store on the corner. Gotta wonder what this business is selling. Dope as duck. That's kind of neat. And the other business my parents had a hand in was the Long Branch Bowling Alley, which was 10-pin on the main floor and 5-pin on the second floor. And it used to be a pool hall at some point before that, and it was later converted back into a pool hall after we let it go, but now it's a CKO kickboxing. Russell Variety is still there. I used to frequent here pretty much every day when I was down here in the summers. And just across the street, in this plaza, right around the corner, there was one of the best fish and chip stores I can remember, along with a Mother's Pizza, which is an old pizza chain you don't see too much anymore. And that Chalet Coin Wash was there as well. All right, so it was right next to that 7-Eleven was Mother's Pizza, and to the left of that, well, it looks like the fish and chip store is still there. There it is, Long Branch Fish and Chips. But the Mother's Pizza has become Snack Shack.
Bro, you know,
And when we get to Kipling Avenue, we'll be at the end of Long Branch. And I think I'll take a peek into Colonel Sam Smith Park. This area just up here on the right used to be the Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital. But now it's part of the Humber College campus. And from what I remember, this older building here on the right used to be pretty much the main Humber College building. But it's since been surrounded by much newer additions, it looks like it. And it's good to know Long Branch has a A&W burger. There's even a sushi and momo restaurant. So the grounds where this psychiatric hospital used to be located are now part of Humber College, and to the south, Sam Smith Park. The hospital itself opened in 1889 and it closed around 1979. It was one of two psychiatric hospitals that were well known in the city of Toronto, the other being on Queen Street, which is now part of the CAMH mental health facility. Growing up, my parents affectionately referred to them as the loony bins. I don't think that would be a very politically correct term in today's day and age. And these were the grounds where they filmed the original Police Academy movie, or at least part of it. They also filmed a couple of the sequels here. A number of other movies and TV shows have been filmed on these campus grounds. And I think I read there was a recent Netflix production here. So this is a long-term care facility on the right. And this should be Kipling Avenue straight ahead on the left. You could take that north up to Kipling Station, and when I get out of here, I think I'll be jumping on a bus and doing that, as I don't particularly care for spending the rest of my life on a streetcar as I eventually make my way back home. There goes the bus now up to Kipling Station. That should only be about a 5-10 minute ride from here. And also just north of here at Kipling and Horner is a Toronto Corrections Facility. So if you're wondering where there's any large prisons or jails in the city, you can find one just up here. So on the left we have Kipling Avenue heading north, and on the right we have Colonel Samuel Smith Park. And we have entered New Toronto and left Long Branch. So New Toronto carries on for a few kilometers. It's also got a pretty interesting retail stretch. And then just past that is Mimico, where you'll find the Humber Bay Arch Bridge. There's a look north up Kipling Avenue. And these are the grounds of the old psychiatric hospital. So I'll just go take a look at some of those buildings and then we'll call it a video, as I want to continue south into Sam Smith Park, where I've only ever went through on my bicycle, as I've heard there's one of the best lookouts in the city of Toronto called Wimbrell Point. I might have got that wrong. So I'd like to go explore that area a bit. Perhaps you'll see that in a future video. And I believe most of these older buildings have been completely modernized and updated by Humber College. The college has been here since the early 90s. They signed a 99-year lease to take over the property. And I know I said I was going to end the video there, but we're just gonna take a peek around this corner, and then I'll head on down to the lake and see if I can find this view. And I think I read that most of these buildings were constructed by, at least in part, by the patients that were living at this facility at the time. This is probably worth coming back and recording in a future video, as it's quite neat. Looks like there's a member of security wandering around over there. All right, well, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave me your comments and feedback down below. There are links to my Instagram and Patreon accounts if you wish to support this channel. And don't forget to pop into any of the live streams and say hi. If you do see that I'm streaming, although I'm doing it quite randomly still. I haven't worked out any type of schedule yet. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this walk through Long Branch over to Humber College and the former Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital. Thanks again, and catch you on the next one.